In this movie, we'll be talking about specifying custom button icons. Now here we have a control group with a couple buttons. This first button is a link to Google, and you can see it has the customary search icon. The code that's doing that is right here, data icon equals search on this anchor tag. Now, for this flower button, we want to specify a custom icon. So in your working files directory, you'll find customicons.html, that's the file we're working in, and you'll also find two PNG files. One is called flower icon, and there's another one called flower icon at 2x. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. This is what the flower icon looks like. It's simply a PNG file with transparency. This is the icon file that we're going to be using for our custom icon. Now there are a number of steps to this. First of all, we need to tell jQuery Mobile that we want to use a data icon of not home, not search, none of the icons that come with jQuery Mobile, but a custom one. In order to do that, you can just go ahead and type in a custom name. In this case, I'll choose flower. Now it's typically a good idea to prepend your data icon names with the name of your application. So for example, if you're making an application about finding parking, then you can say park app dash and then flower. That indicates to developers in the future that this is a custom icon, not one that comes with jQuery Mobile. And it's unique to your parking application. In this case, we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to set data icon to flower. Now jQuery Mobile will take this and add a class of UI-icon-flower. Now jQuery Mobile doesn't have any CSS selectors that correspond to your flower icon, and so it'll add that class and it'll expect that you create the CSS for that. So let's go ahead and do that. First off though, let's double check that it applies the class correctly. If we refresh this, sure enough, it gets confused here and it just puts the default of the cross there. If we right click on it and say inspect element, now we can see that yes indeed it's adding the class of UI icon flower. Now the reason that it's getting the cross is because it has a class of UI icon. UI icon applies the normal icon sprite that comes with jQuery Mobile. And because we're not specifying a custom background position, it just chooses the very first icon. Let's go ahead and fix that. So let's close our developer tools and let's go up to the top here and add a style tag. Inside of this style tag, we're going to put all of our CSS. Now we know that it's adding a class of UI icon flower. So now anything inside of this rule will be applied to our icon. We'll set it to flower icon.png. Save it, hop back over, and now we have our icon. Now I think there's one thing we all can agree on. It's that I'm not the best artist in the world. So ideally you'd create maybe a more beautiful icon than this one. Now if you wanted to create a couple of other icons, for example, Fireball, you would say .ui icon fireball, and you would do the exact same thing. You would just specify the background image, and you would set it to whatever that new custom icon is. Maybe it would be fireball icon.png. And now you've wired up your custom fireball icon, which means down here, you can just go ahead and set data icon to fireball. Now, of course, we don't have a fireball icon file in our working files directory, so that's not going to work. But if we did, it would. So that's pretty cool. Now there's one more thing that I want to go over. If you open up the iOS simulator, and let's go ahead and copy this path, and we'll paste it in. By the way, keyboard shortcut for the iOS simulator if you're using a Mac is Control-Command-V for paste. Just a good one to know about. So that works just great. However, if you switch to the iPhone Retina display, that's when you start running into problems. The problem is that the iPhone Retina display has twice the amount of pixels, but it renders things at the same size as the standard iPhone without the Retina display. What that means is This iPhone here, the non-Retina display one, has a horizontal resolution of 320 pixels. The iPhones with the Retina display have a horizontal resolution of 640 pixels. That's exactly twice the number of pixels. However, the Retina display iPhones pretend as if they have 320 pixels across. That ensures that all the iPhones lay things out the same way. The main selling point of the Retina display is that everything looks crisper. And that's completely true, it does, because it has double the number of pixels in the same amount of space. What that means for us as developers is we need to actually develop our icons at 2 sizes. So we can have our flower icon at our normal size, but we also want to have our flower icon at double the size. So you'll notice that this one is half the size of this one. What we need to do is write some CSS so that way if we're using a Retina display device, it'll use this icon, but it'll shrink it down to the same size as this one. So in other words, they'll be the same number of inches or centimeters across, but the at 2x icon will have twice the resolution, so that'll accommodate the iPhone with a Retina display. So let's go ahead and write that code. Basically what we need to do, first of all, is use CSS media queries in order to tell the computer to run this CSS code if we have a pixel ratio of 2, and run this normal CSS code, which we already wrote, if we have a pixel ratio of 1. So let's go ahead and do that. We start media queries with @media, only screen, and then in here, we say WebKit min device pixel ratio is going to be 2. Now we can open up our brackets, and inside of here, all of the CSS inside of here will run only on devices that have a minimum pixel ratio of 2. In other words, the iPhone Retina displays. Now the Retina displays actually exist on some Android devices as well and other devices, but Apple just coined the term Retina display, so everyone tends to use that term. So now what we need to do is we need to target the same element. So UI, icon, flower, and then inside of here, we need to do 2 things. First of all, we need to say background image is going to be URL flower icon at 2x.png. And that's what this file is called. This rule here is telling the computer to use the higher resolution image instead of the normal resolution image. Now we need to write one more rule, because if we just tell the computer to use the higher resolution image, it's going to scale the higher resolution image at the normal size. So we need to tell the computer to shrink it back down. We can do that using background size. And we're going to set it to 18 pix, 18 pix. That's telling the computer, no matter how big this image is, make it 18 pixels wide and 18 pixels tall. Now these particular dimensions are not arbitrary. These are the dimensions that jQuery Mobile tells you to make your icons at. If we take a look at flowericon.png and we press Command I to open that up in preview, we see that the image size is indeed 18 by 18 pixels. If you look at any of the other icons, you'll see that they all fit within an 18 by 18 pixel grid. This high resolution one is 36 by 36 pixels. Again, exactly double the size. But we need to tell the computer, shrink that image down so that way it's the proper size. And so now you can see that it works just fine on the normal iPhone. Make sure that's saved. But if we go into the iPhone Retina display device and we click on Safari, it works just as well. If you happen to have a larger screen than I do, you'll actually be able to see better detail in that icon. So that's how you build custom icons, and that's how you target the iPhone with the Retina display.